Broadcasting live from the fortified village on the plain of Innistrad, this is Tap Tap Concede.
I love, just how generic fortified village is.
Yeah.
What do we call this place? Fort Village.
What if we affy it?
I don't know.
It'll be a fortified village.
Fortified? Yeah. Okay,
There you go.
we're good. We're good.
You guys just got to affy it.
Terry. This isn't working, Terry.
I mean, some of the
It's fine.
some of the dual lines from this set are not maybe the most creative names. Port Town.
Yep. I mean, Choked Estuary is at least kind
That's
of
not bad.
evocative.
That's cool.
Yeah. I
I
like Game Trail.
I'm a big fan of Forbidden Orchard. That's one of the uncommon cycle.
Oh, yeah. And then there's Highland Lake.
Actually, I need Forbidden Orchard for my Tree Folk deck because flavor.
Oh, yeah.
Forbidden Orchard. I am thinking of a different. Forbidden Orchard is a different card than I was thinking of.
Yeah. What's the...
Forsaken Orchard?
It's the green-black one.
It's a green-black dual land at uncommon from Shadows over Innistrad. And I guess it's not Forbidden Orchard, because that is a very different card.
Yeah.
Foul Orchard. There it is.
God, Graham.
Okay. Well, that's less good. But anyway, this week we're going to be talking about the weeks 4, 5, and 6.
Oh my God! Wait, hold on. I just
What?
realized: is Foul Orchard a strange fruit reference?
I mean, it could be.
Oh
I have no
no,
idea.
I don't like that thought.
Okay.
Okay.
Move past it. Move past it.
Weeks 4, 5, and 6 of the Community Super League, which was standard build around, Momir Basic, and the one that we did
No ban
last
modern.
night, which was no ban list modern. So we'll be talking all
was
about
very exciting.
that. Yeah, it was super fun and crazy. But first, let us crack a pack.
Ooh.
James,
All right.
Bye, dice.
goodbye.
Run
As it
free.
Skitters across the room.
15.
15.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15.
Hey, it's Theros.
The heroes.
Didn't
The
we?
heroes.
Did we just do Theros?
No, we did.
No.
It wasn't Theros.
Okay.
I can't
That's
remember.
cool.
This was given to us by Jamie at PAX East. Thank you, Jamie.
What do we got? What are we looking for? Not this first one.
Hey, Cavalry Pegasus. It is a 1/1 flyer for 1 and a white, and whenever Cavalry Pegasus attacks, each attacking human gains flying until end of turn. I recall this actually being fine in draft.
With a decent amount of humans.
With
yeah.
humans, yeah.
By itself.
Well, no. By itself, it's a 1/1 flyer for 2.
No.
Yeah.
But
He's
if you have
not
a
I always remember this card kind of getting me, but whenever I was in this deck, it was always like, I need a blocker.
yeah.
Yeah.
You'll do.
Yep, that's fair.
Next up is Loathsome Catoblepa,
Ugh.
or Katie Bleeplepasta. It's
Or the bleeper.
the bleeper.
The bleeper.
It's a 3/3 beast for 5 and a black,
Dear God.
and for 2 and a green, it must be blocked this turn if able. When it dies, target creature an opponent controls gets -3/-3 until end of turn.
It on paper it seems like it should be kind of good, but it kind of
never
never was.
worked.
No, it
no,
was
I
just
remember
bad.
a lot of these guys going around in packs.
Yeah.
Like the 2 and a green has to be blocked. It's just like okay, like you can block it and not kill it.
Yeah,
you can
like
chump it.
it's
you can
not
just,
it's not
like
the
whatever.
lure, right? If it was lure, like every creature must block it, that'd be amazing.
Or even if it was just target creature must block.
No, that you get to pick the blocker.
You get to pick the blocker. That would have been sweet too, because then you could be like, I choose your 6/6.
Yeah.
And you get to kill their 6/6, which is definitely not nothing. But as it stands, it's not very good.
No.
And never ever really saw play.
This one, however, saw lots of play. Nylea's Presence, 1 and a green for an enchantment. Enchant land. When Nylea's Presence enters the battlefield, draw a card. So that's great.
Yep.
It places itself in your hand. Enchanted land is every basic land type in addition to its other types.
Turn 2 domain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to
Not that it mattered, but
not domain, strictly speaking. But yeah, so this was really good fixing because you got to, your land could then produce any color. You could do it on, obviously, a tapped land, so you could play it on turn 2, and you get to draw a card. And it's an
also
enchantment.
counts. Well, sorry, go ahead. I
no.
interrupted. No, I was just thinking that it takes up your devotion to green.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, it adds to devotion to green, devotion being a mechanic in this format. And the other thing, that I was right. It's an enchantment, and constellation was the mechanic that whenever you play an enchantment, things happen.
Yep.
I was just looking up because I was curious. From a flavor perspective, the Cato Pass it's a mythological Greek monster.
Yep.
Body of a buffalo, head of a boar.
Yep.
Which I feel like is not that imaginative in terms of the body.
No.
Yeah, like I'm not sure I would recognize that as being monstrous if I saw it.
Yeah.
Its back has scales, and its stare and breath could turn people to stone or kill them, like a basilisk. Hence the lure ability, and the like killing people when it dies thing, I guess.
This is a particularly loathsome one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up is the Fleet Feather Sandals, another like equipment that was fine. It's a 2-mana equipment, equips for 2, and the equipped creature gets flying and haste. I definitely lost games of limited to this card.
That must feel bad.
It felt awful.
Yeah, because this card's not very good.
No, it's not. But it would sit there, and you'd be like, yeah, okay, they have these Fleet Feather Sandals, whatever, that card's not very good. And then they'd be like, now I play this 6/6. Whoop, you die.
Yep.
And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely still not a good reason to play the card, but
No.
Okay.
What about this one, though? Voyage's End. Voyage's End is 1 and a blue for a instant that it says return target creature to its owner's hand, scry 1.
Yeah, this card's sweet. This card is an amazing bounce spell.
Voyage's End was great because you get to tempo them out and smooth your draw for the next turn.
No, this card is fantastic.
I'm just so glad that we have like the edge of the world on a card.
Yeah,
I think
no,
that's
it's-
awesome.
Yeah, very pretty art from Chris Ran.
Staunch-Hearted Warrior was also fine. It's a 2/2 for 3 and a green. Human Warrior with Heroic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Staunch-Hearted Warrior, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. This was not the best Heroic card by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But it was not the worst. It was okay.
Yep. I agree. Let's get some good cards.
Well, next up we have Traveling Philosopher, so don't hold your breath.
It's a bear.
Bears.
I'll take it.
It's a 2/2 for 1 and a white.
Yep.
That's it. That's all it does.
It's got a whole bunch of flavor text, though.
Sure does. Next is the Two-Headed Cerberus.
I kind of want to see a fight between a traveling philosopher and a bear.
The bear is going to win.
Technically, they would win. They would
trade.
Trade, yeah.
Yeah,
Bear
that's true, yeah.
Between a bear and multiple traveling philosophers.
Yeah. I always wanted this card to be good, but it kind of wasn't that great.
I found Two-Headed Cerberus to be fine.
Like,
So it's a 1/2 for 1 red. So a 1/2 for 3, but it has double strike.
yeah.
But if you put enchantments on this,
Yeah,
thing,
yeah, sure.
it
If
gets sweet.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like in the Boros sort of like Voltron deck where you're putting a bunch of stuff on one thing.
Yep.
I would run a Two-Headed Cerberus.
Yep.
Like it was
It
was one of the earlier ones I'd look to cut, but it wasn't.
Yeah, because the problem with me was always that double red mana cost. It just made it that much harder. Like, this card is great if you can play it on 3, but too often it just sat in your hand or you pulled it out. You know, if you're like on the back foot, this is just not a great card that you really want to grab. But
Aqueous Form.
Oh, hi
is
there.
Next. Aqueous Form is a single blue mana creature enchantment. The enchanted creature can't be blocked, and whenever that creature attacks, you get to scry 1.
Hi.
Aqueous Form was great in the white blue heroic deck.
yeah.
Because it just kept getting through. You kept scrying.
Yep.
Really, really strong.
And more enchantments.
Ugh. Silent Artisan. I don't think I ever ran one of these. 3 white for a 3/5.
It's like even worse shit dogs.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
It's
the 3
double
pure
white.
bloods, but it's
Yeah.
white instead of 4 and a white.
Yeah, no, this card is terrible. Don't play this card.
Yep. This guy, though, Stone Shock Giant.
Hey, there we go.
5/4 for 3 red, which is already like playable. It has Monstrosity 3. So for 6 red, you can make it monstrous, which is you put 3 +1/+1 counters on it because it's Monstrosity 3. And when Stone Shock Giant becomes monstrous, creatures without flying your opponent's control can't block this turn. So you play it as a 5/4, and then when you get to 8 mana, you just get to sort of end the game probably,
Yeah.
because none of their things can block.
Yeah, this card was pretty bonkers.
Glare of Heresy is fine.
It's a really good sideboard card.
Yep, one and a white sorcery, exile target white permanent.
I mean, this is like one of the kind of best sideboard cards, but it's definitely that.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
cycle of self-color. Like, wasn't
Yeah, there was like
there was a,
Gainsay in blue.
yeah,
and there
which was a blue spell that counters a blue spell.
yeah.
There was
I don't remember what they were all called.
Volcanic Eruption in red that
Yeah.
destroyed a mountain.
yeah. I don't remember the full cycle, but they were weird. And yeah, actually, I think Glare of Heresy might have been the best one.
Yeah, because it was just straight up.
Volcanic Eruption.
Volcanic Eruption's a little different one. Although I
ain't
did
right.
the red one, I did bring in because I think it's destroy a mountain and you dome the controller for 3.
Okay, yeah.
And I did actually when I was in like a very aggressive like Boros deck, and I faced someone who was playing red. I did bring it in
Yeah, no, that's,
just to be like.
Yep,
yeah.
that's
Eat it.
fair. All right, what's next?
Next up is the Evangel of Healy.
Okay,
Pretty
yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
4 white for a 1/3 human cleric. When it enters the battlefield, put a number of 1/1 soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield equal to your devotion to white. So worst case, if you have no other white cards in play, you're going to get 2 soldiers because this guy has 2 white devotion right there. But it was easy to kind of go crazy with this guy.
Yeah. And you get one of those pump everything anthem spells, and you feel pretty good about yourself.
Yeah. Hey, we got there. Xenagos,
Hey!
the Reveler.
We did it!
We did it. This is only like the second or third Planeswalker we've ever opened on the podcast.
That's exciting.
Yeah. 2 red-green for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. It is Xenagos. He has a +1 ability to add X mana in any combination of red and or green to your mana pool, where X is the number of creatures you control. For 0, you can put a 2/2 red-green satyr creature with haste into play.
Yep.
And for -6, exile the top 7 cards of your library. You may put any number of creature and or land cards from among them onto the battlefield.
So I don't think I've ever done that.
No,
but
I've actually never done that.
The first 2, super good and limited.
Yeah.
Like any Planeswalker that does nothing but tick up or stay the same in limited and protects itself, pretty good.
If you have blockers, that 2/2 can attack the turn he plays Xenagos. If you don't, then it just can sit there and protect him.
Yeah.
But it also adds to the creatures you have, so that when you do +1 him, you get way more mana, which is really good because in red-green you have a lot of creatures with monstrous, and you can really like go crazy with making your big creatures even bigger.
I'm going to go on a limb and say this is the first pick.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Also, we have a soldier token.
Maybe it's the soldier token. It's
I like the
between this.
planes.
It's between this and the boots. Right?
Yeah.
It's not even close, actually. Like,
No, it's
you
not
take
remotely
this card,
close.
and what are you
Every
hoping?
time.
You hope to wield probably the
Nylea's
giant
presence?
or the
presence. I mean, that
Presence probably wouldn't wheel, actually.
presence probably wouldn't. You might get the Staunch Heart Warrior, or you might get the Cerberus.
In those colors,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're not going to get the giant.
no.
Well, you might. You actually might get the giant because it's so expensive. I saw the giant
Yeah.
wheel a couple times.
I guess it depends on what's going on next.
If
to you,
Xenagos
but
wasn't in this pack, you'd probably be looking at the giant as a
probably
pick
yeah.
or Voyage's End.
Yeah, it's probably that or Voyage's End for me. But I mean, Xenagos kind of just like
Awesome.
okay, we'll just
Yeah.
take Xenagos.
Fantastic. I'm going to put that. Wait, I don't know where.
Oh,
here we go.
put it
All right.
I do love the story of Theros that just Xenagos reveled so hard.
He partied so hard,
Yeah.
his Planeswalker spark ignited.
Yeah.
Well, didn't he partied so hard he became the god of parties?
Yeah.
It's the other way around.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
sorry.
was first Planeswalker,
Right, he was a Planeswalker first.
and then he was like, all the other gods are like, you know what? We don't know anybody who parties better than you. Clearly, you must be a god.
Yeah, I
Well,
like
like,
that his...
the other gods conspired to destroy him, though, right?
Yeah,
Like
it
the-
didn't
yeah.
actually turn out that
Yeah.
well.
Well,
for
'cause-
him.
Yeah, because like the Theros gods are like this big, happy, dysfunctional, scary family.
I just like that because what happened was he was a planeswalker and went around to all these other planes and was like, yeah, these places are cool and all, but there's other creatures that are like way scarier than I am. But if I go back to Theros, I can just decide to be a god because I'm a planeswalker.
Yep.
And so he's like, yeah, screw this. I'm just going to go home and rule it. And they
Yeah.
were like, well, we can't really stop you because you're a planeswalker.
That's
So,
fair.
yeah. I like
Touche.
it. Anyway, so Community Super League, we did an episode talking about that the first 3 weeks, and now we've had 3 more weeks of it, and it's been super fun. We're doing better. We're in second place now,
Really?
behind Kenji. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
How was our Brewmaster score last
we're second.
last
we're
night?
good. I think we're second place. We're second place in both, right?
I think so.
I
Because
think we're second place in both winnings and
Paul and Gabby were first and second last night, and they both lost.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because we're 4-2 now in the standings.
Which is a factor of 2 and 1.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's multiple.
So we have
2 and
3 more weeks left.
So 6 and 3?
We're I mean, we're in a good spot to actually like make it to the finals of this thing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of
crazy.
terrifying.
Yeah.
Is it just the top 2?
I think it's just. I assume it's just. Yeah, like vintage and modern and all those other super leagues work in a very different way. I'm pretty sure. Community, and I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it's just top 2 go and play in the finals. Would be my thought.
So we had the first weeks was the standard gauntlet.
Week 4.
The first 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Was the standard gauntlet.
Yeah.
And
Tribal?
Yeah.
Tribal Wars was week 3. I thought. What was week 2?
It was Block.
Right.
Yeah.
Block United.
Block
Innistrad.
Innistrad Plane Constructed.
Yeah.
And so then week 4 was
the
standard build around. Thank you. Sorry, there's a lot of different things. So standard build around, we had to the community voted on cards that they thought would be fun to see people build decks around, and there was a short list of I think 13 of them or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we got to draft which ones we wanted in the way that the drafts usually work is it's reverse order for your standing.
Yeah.
And so we were like middle of the pack there. So we got to pick 6th out of the 10 people, I think.
So.
And there was options like, we wanted to pick Tamio's Journal actually, but Kenji ended up picking Tamio's Journal and spoilers, beating us with it. What were some of the other picks?
Well, there was like Zada.
Zada Hedron Grinder, which is the 3/3 from
Battle for
Zendikar, that if you target her with anything, you target every other creature that you could target.
Yeah.
Hedron alignment.
Right, Hedron alignment, which Marshall picked, and almost, like, he came close.
Yeah.
He came close. The trick with, before the standard rotation, that you could make Hedron alignment work with Delve cards.
Yeah.
Because you could put it in your graveyard, and then Delve could exile it. But Marshall had to go pretty deep to make Hedron alignment work in this.
It did not work very well.
Didn't quite get there. You know it has text, right? Like, you can scry with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 1 in the blue,
For one
scry
in the blue,
away.
Yeah. We picked, because again, Tammy's Journal went away, we ended up with Brain in a Jar.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah, which it's a 2-mana artifact, and for 1 and tap, you put a charge counter on it. Then you can cast an instant or sorcery with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on it without paying its mana cost.
It's like Aether Vial.
It's like
But for spells.
kind of like
With
Aether Vial.
way less control.
And way less control and not anywhere near as good.
Yeah. And for 3 and tap and remove X charge counters, you can scry X, which I don't think we ever did. So the way it works is, like, for example, we had Fiery Impulse, which is the single red mana. It does 2 damage, but if you have Spell Mastery, it does 3 damage. So pay 1 mana, tap Brain in a Jar, put a counter on Brain in a Jar, then we have 1 counter on it, so then we can cast Fiery Impulse for free.
Yeah.
Then next turn, we can pay 2 and tap Brain in a Jar, and then we can cast a 2-drop for free.
Yeah.
And so, we did that for, like, Negate or something, right? Like,
Yeah.
Like, basically, it sort of chained its way up through the deck. So, Cam put this deck together.
Yeah, and there is a standard mono blue Brain in a Jar in standard right now. I think it's a mid-tier deck. It actually performs better than a lot of people would have expected, but it does things like it plays the spell from Shadows over Innistrad that bounces all creatures whose toughness is
Engulf the Shore.
Engulf the Shore, right? And that's why it's mono blue.
Right.
And it just controls the board and then builds up to a big Rise from the Tides. And we could have played that deck, but that's not really in spirit of this. So I built like a blue-red deck that also wanted to Rise from the Tides because it's a decent finisher in standard right now.
Yeah.
As
So
sorcery.
Rise from the Tides, basically the finisher for this deck. It's 5 and a blue sorcery. You put a 2/2 zombie into play tapped for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. And so you pay 1, like you tick up your brain.
Yeah.
You pay 1 and tap. You put the 6th charge counter on it, and you get to play Rise from the Tides for free.
Yeah.
And the idea is that you've been just casting spells. There was no creatures in this deck.
No.
This was spells only.
Yeah.
So that by the time we got there, our graveyard was super full, and we got to go off the both games actually. The secret technique is Geist Blast,
Yep.
which is 2 and a red to deal 2 damage to a creature or player. But it has this weird ability that if it's in your graveyard, you can pay 2 and a blue to exile it from your graveyard and copy a spell that you control. So you pay, if you have 4 mana and you've ticked up your brain, you pay 1 colorless to tick the brain up to 6, play Rise from the Tides for free. If
Yep.
you're on Magic Online, hold down left control. That's how you retain priority.
Yep.
Then you pay 2 and a blue for Geist Blast, copy the Rise from the Tides, and then you get, how many zombies did we get? Like 24?
Yeah.
It was
I
some
want to say
stupid
something
amount of
like that.
zombies.
Yeah.
And because, so Rise from the Tides is a sorcery, but if you use Brain in a Jar at the end of their turn, you do it at instant speed, so your zombies come in tapped, and then you
Untap
your
it.
turn starts and they untap, and you can
Yeah.
smash, which is what happened.
And then you might run into a problem where they have blockers.
Yes, Cam thought of that.
So what you do is at 7 mana, you play a little something I like to call Volcanic Vision, which blows. It's a spell you target a instant or sorcery in your graveyard, return it to your hand, and deal damage to all your opponent's creatures equal to the converted mana cost of that spell.
Which you might notice that 7 comes right after 6 if you've paid attention to counting.
Yep.
And so you pay 1 and tap on their end step to put the 6th counter on Brain in a Jar and cast Rise from the Tides. Then you untap and you pay 1 and put the 7th counter on it. You cast Volcanic Vision for free, returning Rise to the Tides. You get to deal 6 damage to their whole board. And then you have Rise from the Tides back in your hand, which at that point you can probably hard cast in a turn or two if they aren't already just dead from having their board domed for 6 and you attacking with a bajillion zombies.
Yeah.
That was sweet.
Yeah. No, it was fun. I think it's not hugely different from the current standard Brain in a Jar deck, but like being in red gave us access to some like kind of sweet cards, I thought. Like I like the Geist Blast thing. I like Volcanic Vision.
Yeah.
And I liked like the access to Tormented Voice
Yeah.
to fill our graveyard with instants and sorceries that weren't really doing anything right now.
Yeah, Tormenting Voice, of course, it's a sorcery for 1 and a red. You cast it, you have to discard another card as an additional cost. So you put 2 instants and or sorceries in the bin, and then you draw 2 cards. So it helps you sort of like churn through your stuff.
Yeah.
Did we have Magmatic Insight as well?
No, I don't like Magmatic Insight.
Well,
so
because you
much.
have to pitch land for that.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you can pitch instants
Like,
and sorceries as well.
I
Which
don't
also
know, I've
helps
had a
turn
lot of
on
experience.
This also helps turn on Spell Mastery for
Yeah.
Fiery Impulse.
Yeah.
And
Exquisite Firecraft.
yes, which was
probably
the
isn't a
3-drop.
great include, but I'm not really that familiar with current standard meta. But I like Exquisite Firecraft because it can go to the dome.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-drop, which
Yeah.
was nice. Because we were actually lacking on
4 drops.
4-drops because you want to sort of chain your way up you want to go up the chain like a
Yeah.
birthing pod.
Yeah, exactly.
But we did have Coastal Discovery.
yeah, Coastal Discovery.
Oh, that was the other way that the deck could theoretically win.
yeah,
Was because there was no creatures, but we had Scatter to the Winds and Coastal Discovery, and I want to say we had one other Awaken spell.
yeah. Like the standard list includes part the Water Veil.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
So I wanted to try to not include the cards that were in the standard list.
Yeah.
With the exception of Rise from the Tides, which kind of does shape how the list has to go together. But
Yeah. So in our match against Kenji, we had an amazing game 1 where we got to just go. And then Kenji ruined us
yeah,
because so he had a deck. His deck was Tamio's Journal that we mentioned. So it's a 5-mana artifact. Every upkeep you get a clue, and then you can tap it and sacrifice 3 clues, and you get to just look through your deck for a specific card and put it into your hand.
Yeah.
And he had tireless trackers. which is a 3/2 for 3. When they have a landfall ability, whenever you play a land, you get a clue. And whenever you crack a clue, you put a +1/+1 counter on Tireless Tracker. Now, Tireless Tracker is really, really, really good. And Kenji knew that, and that was not in the spirit of what we were trying to do with this particular week of CSL. And so we didn't realize this at the time. He had a self-imposed Tireless Tracker has Defender clause.
Yeah.
Where he refused to attack with Tireless Tracker.
Because he easily could have ruined you
Yeah.
with his Tireless Trackers.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
he would
like-
have crushed
Game
you.
1, we probably still could have got there with our sort of whole Rise from the Tides thing. Game 2, we absolutely should not have gone for as long as it did.
He just kept holding back this mat. Like, it was like
9/9.
It was like
Tireless
it was
Tracker.
like a 9/8, 10/9. It was just like it was ridiculous.
So, but he ended up sort of like just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And obviously, so you actually sacrifice the clues. Even though you're not drawing a card, you're not sacrificing the clues to their ability. With Tamiyo's Journal, you still sacrifice 3 clues. Meaning if you have a Graph Mole in play, you're also gaining 9 life.
Yeah.
You're also putting 3 +1/+1 counters on your Tireless Tracker.
Yep. And you're tutoring for what is it? The 5-mana counterspell that puts 3 clues into play. Expose Secrets? Or no?
No, it's
I don't remember what that's called.
yeah, I can't remember either.
So,
It's 3 blue, counter a spell,
Get 3 clues.
investigate 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It turns out instant speed tutors, pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to pay mana to do that. You just tap Tamiyo's Journal.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, so what's the opponent doing this turn? Let me go get my silver bullet for that.
Yeah.
Right? And like that isn't a complaint. That's like this is sweet.
And then the other tech that he had was Second Harvest,
Tick. Well, there was
which is 2. Well, that's next. So Second Harvest is 2 green for an instant, which we did not realize. For each token you control, you put another token onto the battlefield that does a copy of that permanent.
Yep.
Clues are tokens.
Yep.
So if he's got 10 clues and he plays Second Harvest, suddenly he's got 20 clues, which is relevant because of I think it was sideboard, though he may have been running it one main board, I don't know. But the silver bullet for actually getting through to us was the Girper Aether Grid.
Yeah.
Stupid card.
For Magic Origins, I believe it's 2 and a red for an enchantment. Girper Aether Grid is you tap 2 untapped artifacts you control to deal 1 damage to target creature or player.
Yep.
Clues are artifacts.
I thought this was sweet. I was
Oh,
like,
it was amazing.
This
I
is
love
amazing.
this. We're dead.
Yeah, it was like
We're mega dead.
It's like, oh, that's super awesome. We lose.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah.
and the best part is that it takes like 10 minutes to do this on Magic Online.
Yeah, because you have
Right,
to
like
click.
you click on Aether Grid, and then you go and click on 2 clues.
Well, you click the target.
Yeah.
You click on the Aether Grid.
Click
you click on
target.
the target, and then you have to tap 2 clues. So it's
Yeah,
like
like
it's
4 clicks for 1 point of damage.
Click, 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 and we're
Yeah.
like F6, just do it.
Yeah.
And so it was just sort of like untap,
Yeah.
and got us. It was pretty
was
fantastic.
pretty amazing.
Week 5,
Week 5 was
Momir Basic.
Momir Basic.
You want to talk about this?
Sure. So, Momir Basic is a format that, I mean, it can be played in real life if you want to, but it exists mainly on Magic Online through a card it's a Vanguard card. And it's a weird format where you play with 60 lands and this Vanguard card called Momir Vig, and it reads, once per turn you can tap down X number of lands and discard a land, and you get a token of a creature with the X, where X is a converted mana cost. So if you tap 6 lands and discard a card, you get a random creature from the game of Magic with a CMC of 6.
So that's
That's how
what
it's
the Momir Vanguard does. Momir Basic means you only play basic lands. Like you only do what this Vanguard card lets you do.
Yeah, and
Also,
you can
start
only-
with 4 extra life.
Yeah, so you start at 24, and you can only do it once per turn. So turn 1, you play out your land, and if you wanted to do it, you could play a 1-drop. Generally, you don't in actual normal Momir. The 1-drops are not very good. You just generally go for the 2-drop. But if you've been watching us for any long enough period of time, then you know that Graham and I have sort of invented our own version of this over the years, and it's called the Flottery.
Now, Flottery is a portmanteau.
portmanteau of Phage the Untouchable. And
The Phage Lottery.
the Phage Lottery. So Phage the Untouchable is a card that says when it enters the battlefield, if you didn't cast it from your hand, you lose the game. And the other text doesn't matter. Because in Momir, you're not casting cards from your hand, you're bringing them, you're basically just making them come into play.
The token just appears.
It just appears. So if at 7 mana you tap out and Phage comes in, and you don't, in case you don't have a Platinum Angel in play, you will just immediately lose the game. So over the years, we've sort of developed this version of Momir where all you do is play 7-drops. So you run out your 7 lands, and then starting at 7, you start pumping out 7-drops. And the minute you get to 7 attackable creatures, whether that be on turn 7 with a haste creature or turn 8 with your last 7-drop becoming without the summoning sickness, you have to attack with all of your available creatures, and you have to continue to attack every turn afterwards, regardless of how many creatures you have. And you have to make sure that you play your 7-drop pre-combat in case of you get a haste creature or if you get Phage.
We've been doing this on stream for years.
For years. And
Only once ever have we ever gotten Phage.
And the one time
We had Platinum Angel.
we had Platinum Angel in play, which was phenomenal.
Because then Phage's ability is that if it deals damage to a player, that player loses the game.
Yeah.
So then we just hit our opponent and won the game.
Yeah. So
I think that was against Hosk, wasn't it?
Hosk or MMA.
Mamo, yeah.
Yeah.
So
we
shout
were
outs
up-
to Wedge.
Yeah, so we went up against Wedge last week, and we challenged him. We said, hey, do you want to... So we went up first round. We were in the first round, and we're like, do you want to do the Flottery? And he was like, yup,
He was
let's
like,
do it.
hell to the yeah, let's do it.
There's no other way to play this game, right? So we did it. And the first game was a pretty one-sided game of the Flottery, if I've ever seen one.
The first 7-drop we rolled was Nova Blast Worm.
Which reads, whenever this creature attacks, destroy all other creatures. So it was kind of unfair.
So we built our board up to 7.
Including Platinum Angel. Yep.
And then attacked, and everything else died, and we hit for 7, and then we just hit for 7, and then we hit for 7.
Well, we hit for 7. He actually managed to gain some life. He stayed alive, I think. I think he ended up taking 5 hits from this thing.
It took a while, yeah.
Instead of the 4 that it would take to actually kill him. But it was pretty much game over. He needed something to come into play that said, when it comes into play, kill a creature. But he didn't hit anything like that, so we ended up taking game 1. In game 2... Game 2 was actually a pretty standard game of the Flottery, if I recall.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a beating match. We each sort of got up to 7 creatures, and we
were sort of on the back foot because I think we had something come into play that just died immediately.
Yeah.
Because there's cards that can do that. This is the thing with the random cards. You end up with a lot of cards that are, especially at 6, 7, and 8 mana, you get cards that have some sort of effect that in Momir you're not able to capitalize on.
Yeah.
Right? You'll have a 3/3 that's when you cast it, which you're not doing, do this crazy ability. Or it's a 0/0 that it's it gets a +1/+1 counters equal to something that you don't have.
Yeah.
And so you'll have a card just appear and die.
Yeah.
Or you'll have a card that's 7 mana for a 2/2 or a 3/3. And that's it.
And in Flottery, that's so bad because you fall behind and you can't attack. Because you want to be attacking at the latest by turn 8, right? You need to be attacking on turn 8 in the Flottery. And if you stumble, then you are in very big trouble.
Didn't he get us with Stormtide Leviathan?
Something like that. I can't remember exactly what card it was.
I think it's Stormtide Leviathan, which is creatures can't attack unless they have flying or island walk. And it has island walk.
No, because it's an 8-drop.
Oh, okay.
So that's definitely
it wasn't
that.
Stormtide Leviathan.
But
something like that.
It was something along those lines.
That's why we don't play islands.
So he ended up taking game 2.
Yeah.
So then we went into game 3. And man, it did not last long because the second card that Wedge played was Phage.
It worked.
It actually worked.
Just how we drew it up.
And it worked on stream and during the CSL, and it could not have gone better. The fact that it was game 3, the fact that it was Wedge, because he was so salty, and not like actually salty,
actually, he
but
was-
like
he was-
entertaining salty.
He was definitely playing it up
Yeah.
for the benefit of the viewers.
He was just especially during the first.
Because all the 7 drops are terrible,
They're
right?
so
he'd like
bad.
roll and get a terrible one. And because we had the Nova Blast Worm first, and so he'd roll and get like a terrible 7 drop. Be like, oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
You know,
it was
again,
just phenomenal.
It was all in good fun.
Yeah, it was great. But just finally hitting that phage, finally having our opponent lose to phage in a game of Momir felt so good. And I think it was fun to do that, considering the rest of the night was going to be standard, Momir people just playing it how you're actually sort of meant to be playing it. So it was fun to sort of kick off the night with a really goofy way of doing it, and not only a goofy way of doing it, but it operating as intended.
Yeah.
Like, it's called the Flottery for a reason, and we hit it.
You
and,
lose.
And we didn't lose. It probably would have been even better had we lost.
It's true.
Like, if we had hit phage, even on like
Hoisted by our own petard.
I think best case scenario in game 3, the first 7 drop we hit is phage would have been like the perfect perfect game, but this was still pretty good.
Yeah.
And it felt really fun to win to phage. But so that was week 5. And then last week, which was just last night,
no ban list modern.
was no ban list modern. And
Turns out there's a modern ban list for a hell of a good reason.
for a very
Yeah.
good reason, because cards like Skull Clamp and like a bunch of blue cards that we played, and what were some of the other really big ban cards?
Jite.
Jite, right? Jite,
Hypergenesis.
Hypergenesis.
Like Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah.
The
Jace.
the iconic the
Nobody
artifact
played
lands.
Jace though.
And nobody was on Affinity either.
No.
And
We
I think the Affinity aversion was probably a factor of, 1, it being like the obvious choice, and 2, there being really good sideboard cards against it.
Yeah. So I did see a lot of people. I think a lot of people were hoping that we were going to build the all ban list, the mono ban list.
It was
thing.
really tempting.
Yeah, the problem is that we had specific instructions from Randy and Athena to actually break the format. Like,
Yeah.
I think they wanted to show off why there's a modern ban
Yeah.
list, and I think we did a really good job of doing that.
Like, this was not meant to be a goofy build week.
No, and the all ban list deck would have been a horrific deck.
Yeah.
It would not have been good.
Because we would have had to commit to it, which means all the lands also, which you can do because all the artifact lands are on the ban list.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you can only have 4 of each, right?
Yeah,
So we'd be in
20 lands.
So like 4 Darksteel Citadel, 4 Ancient Den, 4 Seed of the Synod.
Or no, Darksteel Citadel, because that's the artifact. Or no, Darksteel Citadel is a land, but it's not on the ban list.
Oh, right. The colorless one is.
It's Vault,
Vault of Whispers,
Vault,
Ancient Den.
Tree of Tales, Seed of the Synod, and the red one is the Furnace.
The Great Furnace.
Great
Great
Furnace,
Furnace,
yeah.
So
that would have been 20.
it's not. There's other banned lands. There's
Yeah.
there's the posts.
I mean, the thing is
Yeah.
that we could have done it.
Yeah, you could have done it.
It would have been a
terrible
bad
deck.
deck.
it doesn't-
we would have lost so quickly because the idea was
Well,
like,
I mean, I think any deck where you're also, it might not have been that bad because you could still play things like Stoneforge Mystic into GT, equip,
Yep.
kill.
Yeah, that's true.
And but even that isn't very good, as we saw, because Aaron was on a deck that ran Stoneforge Mystic and GT, and those were just actually turned out to be fair cards in this format.
Yeah, he was running. His deck was Blade Eldrazi Blade.
Eldrazi Blade, yeah.
So it's like the Eldrazi deck that just did very, very well recently, but also with Stoneforge Mystic and Umezawa's GT.
Yeah, with the legacy Stoneforge package, which
yeah.
is like Batterskull, GT, and I don't think that you play Skull Clamp in the.
I don't think he played. No, that
No.
doesn't make any sense on that deck.
But he had Skull Clamp, right?
Yeah.
And it cuts the unplayable trash, which is sort of fire and ice in no ban list modern.
There was 2.
So we saw the Eldrazi Blade. We
Yeah.
saw a Dredge deck.
Yep.
We saw 2 Delver decks. Basically, Profs was a little bit more Burny than Delver.
Yeah, he was trying to play. He was trying to play Burn basically.
Yeah. We saw an Elf deck Kenji's elf deck went off with Skull Clamp, which is up on the screen right now. That card, there's a reason that card is broken, and if you want to see why and you didn't watch last night, go watch Game 3.
Yeah.
It will prove to you why Skull Clamp needs to not be in Modern.
It's 1 mana to cast, 1 to equip. The equipped creature gets +1, -1.
Well, that's terrible.
Yeah, it sounds terrible until you read the next
When
line.
the equipped creature dies, you draw 2 cards.
It's a 1 mana draw 2 card spell.
Look, it's not even as good as Ancestral Recall. I don't know what the problem
So
is
you
with this
make
card.
a 1/1 elf, you put the Skull Clamp on it, and you've paid 1 mana to draw 2 cards.
Yeah, you lose a 1/1, but you drew 2 cards, so who cares?
Look,
Yeah.
it's a bad sorcery speed Ancestral Recall. I don't even understand how this gets any play.
Briefly, what Kenji was doing was he had Heritage Druid, which is an elf that you tap 3 elves. You tap 3 elves, and you make 3 green mana.
Yeah.
Or you tap. I don't even know. I think it has to be
I
elves.
think it's just. Yeah, I can't remember.
But the elves he was tapping was.
Yeah, it is 3 tap elves.
The elves he was tapping was the Nettle Sentinels, and a Nettle Sentinel is a 2/2 elf. It doesn't untap during your untap step, but it does untap whenever you cast a green spell.
Yeah.
So he would tap the Nettle Sentinels, then cast like Green Sun Zenith, and go looking for another creature to come into play, getting more elves from that. But also the Green Sun Zenith untaps all the Nettle Sentinels, meaning he's just netting mana.
Yeah.
He started the turn with like 3 creatures in play, and he ended the turn with Lethal Craterhoof.
Yep.
Like it's
To get there,
it was nuts.
To get there, though, he did have to abrupt decay his own creature that had just 1 Skull Clamp on it, which I thought was fun. But
Yeah.
I highly recommend you go to Wizards YouTube and check out, especially Game 3 between it was between Kenji and Wedge.
Yeah, which is round 2.
Round 2.
Round 2, game 3.
Yeah,
but
round
watch
2,
the
game
whole
3.
round. It's great.
Right, watch the whole thing, but especially Game 3 is where the shenanigans happen.
Yeah.
But we were running.
Speaking of going off,
We were running Storm.
yeah.
No ban list Storm, and Cam put that list together.
Yeah.
Now we ran Storm partly, yes, because we've joked about Storm before.
Yeah.
Storm is like Cam's thing. Also because it's kind of sweet.
It's
Yeah,
super
it's-
sweet. Storm's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's the most fun you ever have playing while your opponent's like,
Are you done?
I need to use the bath. Can I
Yeah.
Judge? Can I F6?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's
Wrong
terrible to
Storm,
play
but yeah,
against.
Let me know if you go off.
Yeah. Let me know. Yeah. Just let me know if I'm dead.
How
or
many
not.
Storm Crows were you playing in your Storm deck?
8.
We should have played a Stormcrow.
And yeah. Well, I mean, like Stormcrow and then Mist Intruder.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
Stormcrow 5
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I think we were playing the most banned cards of anyone, with 4 of Ponder, 4 of Preordain, 4 of Rite of Flame, 4 of Seething Song,
Randy said we
and
had 6.
2
5. I think
2 Treasure Cruise.
yeah, we had 5.
I
banned
thought he said we
cards.
had 6.
I believe we only played 5, but I could be wrong.
Because the other cards were Past in Flames, Grape Shot, Empty, Faithless Looting, Pyromancer Ascension, Goblin Electromancer, Probe,
Oh, Mental Misstep.
Mental Misstep.
Oh, yeah,
we
yeah,
had
yeah.
we had missteps in the sideboard.
Which was in the
Yeah.
sideboard. That should have been main.
Yeah, they should have been main.
Sorry.
I like going in. I knew that we were trying to break the format and make like the best decks possible. I still felt like there was like a gentle people's agreement among the players that this wasn't just going to be Mental Misstep, Chalice of the Void, the format.
yeah.
That being said, like I think like this is supposed to be super competitive, but that just kind of like is super boring.
Yeah.
Because like the thing with Mental Misstep is that like you have to run Mental Misstep if only to misstep your opponent's mental missteps.
Right.
Because like it's just like it seems I can see why this card was made, and I can definitely see why it was banned in absolutely everything.
Yeah. Did
you
basically
see-
instantly.
Did you see? I think it was Wedge actually had 3 copies of Nyx in
Yeah.
his sideboard.
Yeah.
NIX. It's a card from Future Sight. It's a single blue mana, and it's counter target spell that had no mana paid to cast it. And that stops in this format. That stops 2 things. One, it stops things coming off of suspend,
Yes.
such as hypergenesis.
Yeah.
2, it stops cards that you pay life for Phyrexian mana.
Yeah. So gut shot, mental misstep, Gitaxian probe,
Yep.
Birthing pod,
birthing pod, and
which no one played.
if you're on infect, there's the white card that grants protection from
Apostle's Blessing.
Apostle's
Wait,
Blessing.
does it hit Birthing Pod? Because you're still paying mana for Birthing
Oh yeah,
Pod.
yeah.
Oh, sorry,
it's-
it's Phyrexian activation.
No, because it can't stifle it.
No, yeah, that would be.
Oh, you're still
Yeah.
paying, right? You
Yeah,
pay,
yeah,
yeah.
Right, you're not
it's
not
the-
only paying
it-
life for
yeah.
Birthing Pod. Sorry.
Yeah, you're
Birthing
hitting,
Pod uses Phyrexian mana, but you're still also paying.
but
mana
you're still
for
paying
it.
3 mana at least.
Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
So yeah, like turns out like Ponder and Preordain are very good cards. Anyone
so
who
good.
plays Legacy will tell you that these are outstanding cards, and they're actually subtly different in when you want to play them. Like Ponder is when you want to just kind of like you need to draw a card, and it doesn't really matter, but you just want to. Ponder isn't for card advantage, but it's when you want to like just move through your deck.
you want to see what's going on.
Yeah. Preordain is when you need to dig for an answer, right? Because it gets things out of the way, like conclusively, whereas Ponder randomizes your deck again if you don't hit what you want.
Yeah. And the whole thing, to me, the whole thing is made amazing by the Pyromancer's Ascension,
Oh yeah,
which is it's the enchantment from Zendikar for 1 and a red, and which we actually got to put into play for free because Marshall was playing
Hypergenesis.
Hypergenesis,
Yeah.
and he played a couple lands and a dragon, and we played a free Pyromancer's Ascension and then killed him next turn.
yeah,
Nice.
So it's whenever you cast an instant or sorcery that is the same as a card in your graveyard, you put a quest counter on Pyromancer's Ascension. Then, if there are 2 quest counters, so you only need 2, which we did in game 1 because we had 3 Gitaxian probes in our opening hand.
Yeah.
So we went probe,
Yeah.
then probe, second probe puts a counter on, third probe puts another counter on.
Yeah.
So Pyromancer's Ascension is online after that.
Yeah.
And we haven't paid mana for the probes because we
Nice.
paid life for them. Then, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, while it has 2 counters, you can copy that instant or sorcery.
God, this card is so good.
So then when you cast a Preordain with that, then you scry 2 and draw a card, and then scry 2 and draw a card.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're looking
You're
at 6
scrying
cards for 1
for
blue mana.
drawing 2 cards for a single blue mana,
Yeah.
and then it just gets out of control. You cast like a
like
seething song.
Manamorphose on this.
Manamorphose is crazy.
Like Manamorphose is actually the most important card in the Storm deck.
yeah.
Hands down, it's the most important card in the Storm deck. Manamorphose is one color or 1 generic and then 1 hybrid red-green mana.
Yeah.
To add 2 colors of or 2 mana of any color to your mana pool.
So it
and draw a
replaces
card.
its cost and replaces itself in your hand.
Yeah, but if you have Goblin Electromancer in play, it rituals you and draws a card. And if you have Pyromancer Ascension online, it just is like
It turns
it's just like dark. It's just Lotus.
it turns yeah, with both of those cards in play, it turns 1 mana into 4 mana and you draw 2 cards.
Yeah,
Which is really useful. The reason this is the most important is because the Seething Song and the Rites of Flame, which are the rituals, they turn an amount of red mana into way more red mana. But you need blue mana sometimes for all these Ponders and Preordains. So the
Yeah.
Manamorphose turns 2 red mana into 2 blue mana.
yeah.
And we had so much mana floating at one point before we were like, we should probably... Storm count's 21. We should probably just kill our opponent.
Yeah, I think we were like, what's our storm count? Oh, we've been dunking on Marshall, right? Like,
Only for like 2 or 3 spells.
Yeah,
We were like,
so-
Storm count's like 23. We should just kill him.
Well, I mean, like that's the risk you play with Storm, right? Is that you're like, I think the reason people hate it so much is not only does it like kill you, but people tend to like forget.
that you're there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you
Do,
can't
do,
do
do,
anything,
do,
right?
do,
It's
do,
just
yeah.
like cast a spell, 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 float mana, cast a spell, float mana. It's just like your opponent's just like, okay,
Okay,
you got to go through the motions.
Yeah,
and then you're
it's
gonna kill
like-
me. I know you're gonna do it, but
Yeah, look, dude, you've got 75 mana and 12 cards in hand. Like,
Yep.
can you? I played Storm against a friend at school once because she was like, "Hey, you play Magic?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Cool, bring a deck." And I'm like, "The only thing I have together right now is my Storm deck." And she's like, "No, that sounds awesome." And it ended with her screaming, "Just finish!"
yeah, yeah.
And it.
Yeah.
That was the first game we finished
Yeah.
with Grape Shot, which is 1 damage
Yeah.
for 1 and a red, but it has Storm, which is you get the whole. Sorry, to be clear, in case you're unaware, Storm is this mechanic that when you cast a spell, you copy it for each other spell that was cast this turn. So what you're doing is you're just trying to generate mana and draw cards and keep casting spells to increase the Storm count. So that when you cast Grape Shot, instead of dealing 1 damage, you copy it 20 times and you deal 20 damage to their face.
Yep.
Yeah.
So game 2, however.
Well, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Go
it's
ahead.
okay. Marshall opened with, on turn 0, as it's known, putting Leyline of Sanctity into play. So the ley lines are cards that if you have them in your opening hand, you can reveal it at the beginning of the game and start with it in play. And Leyline of Sanctity happens to read that you can't be the target of spells or abilities.
Yeah.
Meaning that we had to, in game 2, we had to Gitaxian probe ourselves repeatedly so that we could just sort of up the storm count. But it also means that Grape Shot, which we had 2 copies of, doesn't work because we can't target Marshall's face.
Right.
Yeah.
But we
And,
had
like,
one backup.
The scary thing with Leyline of Sanctity is even if you do Grape Shot to remove a threat, and they have some way of sacrificing, then
It still has to target something.
the Grape Shots have to target something.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So they have to point it back to you or a creature you control.
Yeah.
That's really scary. I hadn't thought of that. So the other possible win condition in the Storm deck is Empty the Warrens, which is 3 in a red with Storm that you put 2 1/1 goblins into play for each spell that was cast. So what we ended up in game 2 is we were holding up Remand because if Marshall cast Hypergenesis, we needed to. Because the way the Hypergenesis deck works, you saw it on screen a little while ago. Hypergenesis is starting with you. Each player puts a creature, land, or enchantment into play, and you keep doing this until no one has anything to do.
Yeah.
And you can suspend it for a bunch of mana. You can cast it. But what the Hypergenesis decks do is they play spells with Cascade. Because Hypergenesis has no mana cost.
Yeah. You cannot cast it.
You can only suspend it for 3 mana, and then it comes into play in 3 turns, so people sort of know it's coming. However, if you play a spell with Cascade, they were playing, what was the...
They were playing like the Exalted Enchantment.
Ardent Plea?
Ardent Plea. Yeah, Ardent Pliz. And then the red-green combat spell.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called. But so Ardent Plea has it's 1 white blue. It has Exalted. Don't worry about it. But it has Cascade, which is when you cast it, you reveal cards from the top of your library until you hit a card that costs a non-land card that costs less, and then you can play it without paying its mana cost. The only hit in the deck is Hypergenesis.
Yeah.
So the way it works is turn 3, or whenever you get to 3 mana, you play one of these 3 mana Cascade spells, you drill through your deck until you hit Hypergenesis, and then you put into play the Grizzlebrand and the Emrakul that you have in your hand.
Yeah.
You just go, you just dump these giant threats,
Yeah.
and then you kill them.
Well, yeah, like I think the god play is like Emrakul and Kolaghan. Kolaghan, Dragonlord Kolaghan.
Because it gives them haste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gives them haste.
So in game 2, we sideboarded Remand in to keep up counter magic against the Hypergenesis, and we did counter it once.
Yeah, because Remand wrecks Hypergenesis.
Yeah.
Putting it back into their hand is just like...
It's the worst place for it.
Yeah.
So we wanted to keep Remand up, but we also wanted to just, in case he was able to do something that we remanded and then something else, we decided to use a second copy of Remand that was in our graveyard that had been given flashback that turn to remand our own Empty the Warrens back to our hand.
Yeah.
So we cast Empty the Warrens. It got copied by Pyromancer's Ascension.
Yeah.
And that copy copied 20 times because our storm count was 20, so we made 40 1/1 goblins.
I feel like that's a bug in Mitgo. Because otherwise I've been doing it wrong this whole time, which wouldn't be a surprise, but I always thought Pyromancer Ascension just put 1 copy instead of copying the cast. And
No, it copies the spell and then storm happens. Yeah.
Oh, my deck is so much better than I thought it was.
So then we remanded the one that we cast and put it. So instead of getting 80 goblins, we only got 40 goblins, but the Empty the Warrens was back in our hand in case something somehow happened and
Yeah.
we needed to go off again
Right.
the next turn.
Yeah, so we kept like...
Because that was your only win con.
So we refilled our hand basically during the storm, kept a Past in Flames in the bin, so that we could have access to all our cards again, and we had our win con again.
And we had, with a Goblin Electromancer in play and a island up, that's enough to cast Remand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In case he managed to find Hypergenesis again.
Which he did,
Didn't.
but he just suspended it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the reason we played for so long on match 2 was because we needed to keep drilling down until we found another Remand to protect our goblins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The we said in our commentary on round 2 that our deck could theoretically have a turn 1 kill. It was theoretically possible.
Yeah.
But we weren't able to get there. We did try. I know that chat was really keen on it. We tried in game 2 because we had a right of flame in our hand, and going off turn 1 requires 2 of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we used the 2 Gitaxian probes on ourselves on turn 1 to try, which was not the correct play, but we tried to find the second right of flame. It didn't work because right of flame is this weird thing from Cold Snap. Single red mana, you cast it, you get 2 red mana, plus another red mana for each card named right of flame in your graveyard.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 of them, you play one, like you play Mountain or a Steam Vents or whatever. You play one, you get 2 mana. You use one of those mana to play the other one, so you get 2 mana and a third mana. So you end up with 4 mana.
Yeah.
Then you can play Seething Song for 3 of those mana and add 5 mana, and then you get 6 mana.
Yeah. And then you
Then
get
you
into
start.
Metamorphose
Then you
and-
start
yeah.
sort of going off. But we didn't. We weren't able to get there. But it's possible.
Yeah.
There is a draw that makes it theoretically happen.
It's a little more possible than the turn 1 infect kill, which is okay, check out this line of play. It's super easy. Turn 1 infect kill. You go Forest into Glistener Elf into I've totally forgotten it now.
Blazing Shoal.
Yeah, it's a Blazing Shoal kill. But you have to do there has to be an Expedite in there as well,
Right.
And a Spirit Monkey, Simian
Simian Spirit
Guide, yeah.
Simian Spirit Guide, and it's
I was kind of happy not to see any Infect last night.
yeah,
There was one.
yeah.
Oh, was somebody playing Infect?
Yeah, Paul was running Blazing Infect.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
'cause
right.
It's Blazing
was the first
Shoal
round. I wasn't paying
discarding
enough attention.
I don't know, Progenitus or Emrakul or something.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, he was running Blazing Shoal Infect versus Magic the Amateuring, who was running post Eldrazi.
Yeah, postal. Yeah,
With
yeah.
like Primeval Titan and Cloud Post and Glimmer Post and
Yeah.
stuff. And they went to game 3 and it was close, but it worked. So yeah, Blazing Shoal is X red, but you can remove a red card from your hand with converted mana cost X instead of paying its mana cost, and
Yeah.
then the creature gets plus X plus O.
Yeah.
So you pitch a huge red thing, and then the infect creature gets plus whatever it needs, probably 9, and then kills you.
Yeah.
Because it's got infect, and you only need to do 10 poison counters.
Sorry, it has to be a red card, right?
Yeah.
So not Emrakul, but
No,
yeah, I
something
think Progenitus is probably
That counts.
yeah.
The point is, no ban list modern is a hell of a format, and I'm glad the ban list exists.
Well, I mean, it turns into kind of like vintage kills with standard control,
Yeah.
right?
Which sounds actually kind of miserable.
Well, I mean, it's kind of neat when you're building the decks because you're both comboing out and you're playing big spells.
I mean, we had a blast, but if we'd been in Marshall's shoes, it would have been like,
or if Marshall had
I
gotten
cast
there,
a spell.
Yeah, exactly.
if Marshall had gotten there and had cascaded into Hypergenesis and put down Kolaghan and Emrakul, and we'd been like,
Okay,
cool,
well,
cool
yeah, I mean,
deck, bro.
none
we
of these
lose on
decks
turn
were
3.
fair, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them had the possibility of being fair if you didn't draw your ban cards, because then you are just playing a modern deck. But like Kenji's deck is a fair deck if you take out Skull Clamp. But the minute you add Skull Clamp, it's just like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So
It was awesome.
yeah,
Coming up on the upcoming weeks of the CSL, next week is Ironroot Chef
Yep.
with guest judge guest judge the Wizard,
Yep.
who is a different person from Nate Holt entirely.
Completely different.
Following that is
So I'm not sure if it's following that. I know 2 of the next 3 weeks. Like I honestly can't remember.
I think it's Canadian Highlander next.
There's Canadian Highlander, and then there's one more week before the finals. I don't remember what it is.
I don't remember either.
Knife fight.
Is
Oh.
it a knife fight?
Yeah, I think
Right.
it's just a straight up knife fight.
Randy lays down a tarp.
Yeah, there's
puts
a
out-
straight razor in the middle, and he's like, figure it out.
Yeah. I think that's what happens.
That sounds about right.
Athena's still running tech for that, though.
I was going to go to Community Super League.
CommunitySuperLeague.com, where you can vote on the Brewmaster votes in future weeks. Find
Yeah,
out
we're doing
early.
pretty well, actually.
Well, like Randy noted, we got an email today. Going off definitely helped Brewmaster votes because the highest Brewmaster votes for last night was us and Kenji. Because we got to really show off the deck.
Yeah.
I don't see anywhere on here about it, so
Well,
I'm
anyway,
not sure.
it's great, so you should keep watching. Yeah, Community Super League is Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/magic, following LRMTG. And unfortunately conflicting with Talking Simulator, which if you aren't checking out, you definitely should, because it's really, really good.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, I had to
everyone who
sideboard
doesn't
out.
like Magic is still watching Talking Simulator.
Yeah,
So
I had to sideboard out with James last night.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he'd come in and pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I crushed it.
Yeah.
I brought up so many good points.
Good.
The chat was just like, get rid of Cam. This dude's sweet.
I
No,
agree.
They didn't say that.
That's what I've been telling chat for years.
So yeah, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in, and as always, this is brought to you by you and your kind support of us on our Patreon at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. Thank you so much for all of your support. It lets us do all the things that we do. So we will talk to you next time.